everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about A Brewed Awakening by Pepper Basham. So, this one is a contemporary romance and it's a rom-com and it fits within the Christian fiction category, and it's also a standalone novel. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I've enjoyed reading books from Pepper in the past, including Authentically, Izzy, and I have a bunch of book recommendations you can find at my blog, at my website at narelleatkins.com. And I've also recorded a few episodes on Pepper's books here at Fangirling. So you can look up episode 11 on Some Like It Scot and episode 35 on Sense and Suitability. And you can look that up at your favorite podcasting app, or you can go through the playlist at YouTube. So anyway, I'll add my usual disclaimer and say many thanks to the publisher who provided an advance reader copy, and all the opinions that I express in this episode are completely my own. So let's talk about the book. A Brewed Awakening by Pepper Basham is set in a small town. So we're in the mountains in North Carolina, so in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And we have a number of romance and rom-com tropes in this one. So it's an enemies to love romance, which is very fun. And it's also what I describe as a foodie rom-com. We have a lot of food in this book that's being prepared by our main characters and also being eaten by people. So it's very fun to learn about the food. We also have opposites attract and fish out of water with our main characters who are from different worlds. So our hero is English and our leading lady is a local from the small town. So she's from the south. We have rivals in terms of what's happening with the enemies to love dynamic because they're living next door to each other. They have businesses next door to each other, which I'll get to in a minute. And they don't get off on the best footing. So they start off being enemies as well. And I'll get to that too. And their apartments are effectively upstairs from the businesses that they're running on Main Street. So we've got the forced proximity. We have the town of Wisteria. It's absolutely delightful town that really is very much a character in the book. And we have a quirky ensemble cast of side characters from this town that are a lovely group of people that are so fun to meet and visit with in the story. And they have this hilarious social media banter going on. They're posting and messaging, and there's a lot of fun stuff that's happening at the start of each chapter. And at the same time as we have these fun rom-com elements, there are some very serious issues that do get addressed in the story. We have our main characters dealing with grief and loss. We have a natural disaster that impacts the town, and that's towards the end of the book. And we also have Jane Austen themes in the book because our leading lady is obsessed with everything British, which brings us to our first line, which will lead into the meet cute. So I'm going to read the first line to you, which is this one. Ladies don't drool over cars. And this is from chapter 1 where we meet Daphne. So Daphne's 25 years old. And as I said, she's obsessed with all things British and also Jane Austen. And she's inherited the tea shop where she works and lives above on Main Street from her beloved grandmother as well. So she's very much into old world high teas, baking, teacups, teapots, all the finer things with your fine china and all that kind of stuff. So at the start of the story, she's still feeling stuck and she's grieving because she's lost her grandmother and she's finding it really hard to move on and to get moving after having dealt with that loss because it's not the first loss she's experienced in her life either. There's been a few things that have happened in the past with her. Her brother, who lives in town, he's just delightful and he's her only family, although the town have embraced her as one of their own and she has found family in the town as well. And she's very close to her brother. Now, the tea shop is needing some work done, needs some plumbing things fixed. And basically, she needs to earn more money and she's going to have to change what she's doing. Otherwise, she'll get herself into financial strife with the tea shop. And so she needs to move outside her comfort zone and make a few changes at the beginning of the story. And so now I'm going to introduce you to Finn. So he's our British hero. I'm guessing, is late 20s. I'm not exactly sure how old he is. He'd be a bit older than Daphne. He's a single dad with a 6-year-old daughter, and he's an English chef who's a businessman and he's owned a restaurant in England before he's moved to the States. Now, in terms of his situation at the start of the story, he is brand spanking new to town, has only just arrived, and his connection to Wisteria is a family friend who was a good friend of his late father in England, married an American who's from this town. And so when Finn needed a fresh start, the family friend said, "Hey, why don't you move here? We can get you set up with a restaurant and all that kind of thing." So that's how he's ended up in Wisteria. And his wife left him when his daughter was only 18 months old, and his dad's recently passed. So he really needed a fresh start and a change. And so he's arrived in Wisteria looking for that and looking to settle somewhere with his daughter. So that brings us to the meet cute, which brings us back to the first line where we're talking about cars, because the meet cute relates to a car that Daphne spots on Main Street. It's a VW convertible Beetle, and it's Daphne's dream car for a whole bunch of reasons that relate to sentimental things relating to her grandmother and grandfather from back in England. So she's a quarter British via her maternal grandmother. So we end up with Daphne on the street where this car is, and as you probably guessed, the car is owned by Finn. And a whole lot of stuff happens that's very awkward, embarrassing, funny, and ridiculous. And they end up with some misunderstandings and saying a few things that they don't quite realize is actually going to offend the other person. And that sets up our trajectory for them to go on an enemy's path way. And at the same time, there's this underlying attraction, and neither of them are really looking for a relationship. Although Daphne dreams of happily ever after and settling down, whereas Finn has been burned by his ex-wife. So there's some emotional baggage to work through with that. So there are a number of problems in this story. And so Daphne, with her grief journey and needing to get the tea room, the tea shop, I should say, going and getting some more promotion and things happening at the tea shop, she's got a lot of work to do there. We have Finn, who's got his international move where he's moved across the world with his daughter. He's in a brand new place, a complete fish out of water, and she's got to adjust to starting school as well. There's a whole lot of stuff going on in his life, and he's owns the building next door to where Daphne lives and where she has inherited the building from her grandmother. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of renovations as well. And so they end up becoming business rivals for a whole bunch of reasons. And he's looking at having a restaurant that's effectively like an English pub. So he's into very hearty, wholesome British food, whereas Daphne's into more elegant, fine dining, petite, all those lovely high tea sandwiches and baked goods and all those things is what she's into. And she adores tea and he hates tea. He's a coffee man all the way. So we have very much a tea versus coffee little war going on between these two that's really fun. And the difference is she is not a fan of his English pub food, and he likes to eat something hearty, and her food is a bit more delicate than his is. So we start the story with them at cross purposes, and that's where we see the enemies to love thing happening. And they both have a whole lot of emotional baggage. They're both dealing with trust issues and also abandonment issues as well from the past and things that have happened to them that they need to work on during the story. So I really enjoyed this one. It was such a fun book to read, and there was a lot to love about it. And the romance, it was just adorable. The attraction, as I said, was there from the get-go, and it didn't let up. And this one definitely had all the feels. And the rom-com, there were some laugh out loud hilarious moments that happened in this book that were really fun and really cute. And I loved how they went from enemies to friends to more than friends. That's how the trajectory of their romance worked in the story. And the foodie themes and all the foodie stuff was just so fun. And being neighbours and business rivals, there was a lot of humour that went into that as well. And we have, of course, the small town southern charm that you have in this part of the world. And we've got the close knit community where the neighbours all look out for each other and care about each other. And we have some very delightful and interesting characters who would love to do some matchmaking with Daphne and Finn as well. I think they're a perfect match when Daphne and Finn definitely don't think they're a perfect match. Because with our Austen themes, a single eligible male that turns up in town with a daughter that's only 6 is definitely in want of a wife. And so everyone in town is very aware of the fact that he's in the marriage mart. And so we have a lot of funny stuff that happens. And Granny D is one of the characters in the book, and she's probably one of my favorite side characters. She's just a scream, absolutely hilarious. And there's a number of really humorous things that happen with the side characters as well. And I love Daphne's relationship with Lucy, and that's Finn's 6-year-old daughter, and how that developed in the story. That was just really beautiful to read and watch. And the ending, it was a romantic ending, and it was also a very hopeful ending as well, not just for Daphne and Finn, but for the town as well. And my favorite book quote from the story is this one. But here's the thing, walls don't just keep pain out, they keep possibility out too. And we're talking about emotional walls here, and these are words of wisdom from one of the side characters who's talking to one of our main characters as well. So I would describe this one as having relevant faith elements. We're dealing with grief and loss, and both our main characters have experienced loss in different ways and are grieving the loss of relationships from people who have left as well as people who've passed away as well. So there's a lot of depth that goes with that. We also have trust and abandonment issues that a number of characters are dealing with, and they're facing fears and needing to overcome their fears in the story in a few different ways. And the story also has forgiveness themes that are touched on as well. So, in terms of the impact on me, there were lots of smiles, particularly with the rom-com story elements that were really fun and quite hilarious. And then, of course, there were some poignant moments because there was some hard situations and circumstances that happened during the story. And I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to give away spoilers. And there were some moments and some parts of the story that were quite hard to read because of what was happening on the page as well. So we had those poignant moments as well as those light-hearted fun moments. And there were some things in the story that really did make me think as well. And there were some serious issues that were addressed with a lot of sensitivity and were quite insightful. And I learned a few things as well from some of those situations. So, in summary, I would recommend A Brood Awakening to readers who like foodie rom-coms with depth, who like British and Austen themes in their stories, who like the single dad hero who's definitely a fish out of water, who like the enemies to love and business rivals trope, who really enjoy their contemporary romances and rom-coms where the town comes alive in the story and is very much a character, to readers who like that matchmaking ensemble cast that create a lot of fun and mayhem for the main characters, and to readers who like relevant faith elements that deal with trust issues and also look at overcoming fears. Thanks for joining me today. Does A Brood Awakening sound like a book that you'd like to read? Have you read it? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening at the podcast, you can send me a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching at YouTube, you can like the episode at YouTube or leave a comment at YouTube. You can also email me at my website where I have a contact form, and you'll find that at narelleatkins.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, and you can do that at your favorite podcasting app, or you can subscribe at YouTube, and then you'll get a notification on when my next episode drops. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend, especially a friend who enjoys reading contemporary romance and rom-coms, and a friend who you think would enjoy reading Pepper's books. So thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.